Hey guys, it's Carmen, and in this video I'm just going to be telling you how to care for a hamster. Now this pretty much goes for any type of hamster, Syrian, dwarf, yeah. So I guess let's just get started with what you will need for a hamster. So obviously the first thing that you will need is the cage. Now you can't just go and buy one of those small, like, critter trails, is that what it's called? I don't even know, I've never used one. Those little pet store cages meant for hamsters. Pretty much any pet store cage that are meant for hamsters don't work for them, if that's even the word. Hamsters do require a lot of space, and that's one thing that most people don't know when they first get their hamster. They think that they can just keep them in these small little cages, that's not true. So, I have a 40-gallon breeder for my Syrian hamster. That is the minimum cage size for a tank. I don't know what the dimensions are on it. If I can find it, I'll put it up on the screen right here. And I think it's 420 square inches is the minimum dimensions for a cage for a hamster. But there are several different types of cages that you can get. You can do a bin cage, which is pretty much a DIY cage just out of a bin. You can get a fish tank like I have, which again, a 40-gallon breeder is the minimum tank size for a fish tank. There are IKEA Detolf cages. Those are also really good. There's several different cages that you can get. Just don't get pet store cages specifically meant for hamsters because those are too small. The next thing that you will need is a wheel. So it depends on what type of hamster you're going to get. For a Syrian, they do typically need a bigger wheel. For a dwarf, they can use a smaller wheel. I think the 6-inch wheel is the smallest you can go for a dwarf hamster or any small type of hamster. Hamster. There we go. Jeez. And a Syrian hamster, I think it's 8 inches is the minimum. If I'm wrong, I'll have it right up here. But I think 8 inches is the minimum for a Syrian. If you do plan on housing hamsters together, just know that Syrians cannot be together. They will fight to the death. So do not put Syrians together. Dwarfs, it's kind of a hit or miss. I don't recommend putting them together or trying to keep them together because it doesn't always work out. Also, especially if you're gonna try to put 3 together, just don't do that. It doesn't work because 2 of them will team up and kill the other one. Just saying. But I will get on to that next after I tell you what you need for your hamster. If you do have 2 dwarf hamsters living together happily, then good for you. But if you do have that, then you need 2 separate wheels. You can't just have 1 wheel. So yeah, that's the next thing. Next, you will obviously need a bedding of some sort. Don't use fleece or fabric or anything like that. I typically recommend using a paper bedding. Don't use pine or cedar. I think aspen is the only safe wood bedding that you can use, but paper is the absolute safest bedding to use. That's what I use. It comes in all different colors, so if you want more of a natural, you can go with brown or white or something like that. But they do have pink, orange, green, yellow, purple, blue. Did I say blue? I don't know. Yeah, they have several different colors or color combos that you can do, because they have like birthday cake package where it's white, yellow, blue, and pink mixed together, I want to say. I'm not too sure. And then they have like an apple orchard, which is more of a reddish brown mix. Yeah, they have a bunch of different colors of paper bedding, which is obviously a great option. The dyes are perfectly safe for your hamster and everything, so they are the more expensive kind, but they are the absolute safest that you can give to your hamster. But you don't have to give them like that type of bedding. You could give them soil, but if you make sure it is from like the garden section at a store or something, it doesn't have any added fertilizers or pesticides or anything like that in it. It's just plain soil. You can use Eco Earth, which is meant for reptiles. I like to have a little dish of that in my hamster's cage, just so she can have a little bit of a option, because she does like to roll around in it and kind of dig in it a little bit. So that is another option. Soft granule blend bedding is a great option as well. It is a little bit more pricey for the size that you get. I would recommend having that only be like a section of the cage, because it could be a little expensive to do the whole cage with it. But it is a great bedding for digging. My hamster absolutely loves to dig in it and everything, so that's great. You can use sand with your hamsters as well. I don't recommend having the whole cage sand, but you could do that, I guess. I think. I believe so. Or you could do a sand and soil mix and have that the whole cage. That works. You can do soil, just the whole cage. Yeah, that's great too. But I do recommend having like a little section of sand in your cage. Again, it's not like you don't have to do it. You can just do one solid thing. You don't have to add any extra or different types of materials, but do whatever you find is best for you. Do whatever your hamster likes. Yeah, so again, I recommend using paper bedding, but whatever works for you is great. The next thing that you'll need is a water bottle. Do not use a water bowl, because hamsters, if they get wet, they can get wet tail, which is pretty much diarrhea, and they can die from it. It's not very likely of them to live if they do get it. So don't put a food bowl down, or a water bowl down, because they can get into it or spill it or something like that, and that wouldn't be good. So do use a water bottle. Make sure you're always filling it up with fresh water. You don't want old water in there. And always make sure that the water bottle works, because they do sometimes malfunction, and it could be a problem if they're not getting water. So you always want to make sure that their water bottle is working, and you always give them fresh water. So that is the next thing. Obviously, you will need a food of some sort, and you can scatter feed or use a food bowl. I personally like food bowls because I tend to not waste that much food if I do put it in a bowl, and I do know how much she's taking and what she likes and everything. And I'm saying she because I have a girl, but I mean, if you have a boy, whatever. I know what she's taking and what she likes and how much she's eating and everything like that, and it's not being wasted. So I know how much she has and everything, if that makes any sense. So I do recommend using a food bowl. Those can be relatively cheap. You can buy them from a thrift store. You can just use a plain bowl that you have. It doesn't have to specifically be meant for hamsters or small animals. You don't have to get it at a pet store. Those bowls typically are overpriced. So I would recommend going to your local Goodwill or thrift store. I do like finding really cute bowls there and everything. They do have a good selection sometimes, but then again, it's a thrift store, so you don't really know what they're gonna have unless you look at it. So I do recommend going there and looking for food dishes. Again, the food, it's all up to what you have, what type of hamster you have, what they like. Dwarf hamsters are prone to diabetes, so you want to make sure that you're watching out for that when you pick out a food for them. You want to get a nice variety. You don't want to use like one type of food. So like Oxbow, for example, it's just one little kind of pellet, so they don't get a variety that way. I do recommend a seed and like pellet mix. So again, you can find out what your hamster likes. It kind of all depends on you and your hamster and your money situation and everything. I wouldn't go too cheap with your food, but I mean, you do you, so you find what works for you and you'll know. A really big thing that you need to know is that hamsters' teeth never stop growing. They're always going to be growing. It's not like our teeth where they just stop growing once we get our adult teeth. Their teeth are always growing. So by them chewing on everything, it's wearing those teeth down. So you need to give them some chew toys. I like wooden ones. There are loofah and wooden, there's other types, but I do recommend wooden because they're gonna be the best to grind down your pet's teeth. It doesn't hurt them when they chew. It's just like, I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't hurt them when they chew. They actually really like chewing. And if you want to be really cheap and make stuff, then cardboard is a great option. Just make sure it doesn't have any like permanent marker on it or like toxic stuff, dyes, whatever. So I would just recommend the plain brown cardboard. That's perfectly safe for them. They can chew on it. They typically like it. And you can make some really cool things with it. So I would recommend that and wooden shoes. So again, I wouldn't recommend going to like a hardware store or something and just buying a block of wood. It would be cheaper, but I wouldn't recommend it because sometimes that's not always really safe for them. So I would recommend getting your shoes from a pet store. So that is a very important one. You need to make sure that they do have plenty of chews that they're actually chewing on and liking. So hamsters and pretty much most animals are prey animals. So you want to get them a hide. So I recommend those little igloos. They're cheap and typically hamsters like them. I keep saying typically a lot. And my hamster personally doesn't use it, but my other hamster did. And my hamster that I have now is pretty much the only hamster that I've ever seen not use an igloo. Instead, she likes to dig herself way down into the bedding, and yeah, that's her house. Which is weird, but I mean, hey, whatever. I still put it in her cage though, just in case. So yeah, you do need a hide. It could be an igloo, it could be a cardboard box, it could be old yogurt container. It could be whatever, as long as it's something that they can hide in. So that is, I think, the last thing that you need for a hamster, if I am remembering everything. I think so. So now I'm going to get on to actually like caring for your hamster and everything. I kind of said already about not housing hamsters together. Syrian hamsters are solitary, so you cannot house them together. You can't even try. Don't try, because kill each other, or they'll fight to the death, whatever. Dwarf hamsters, again, they can live together, but I don't recommend it. It's not the best for them. It's not the easiest thing. So I would not recommend housing your hamster together. Don't think that like, oh, it's going to be lonely or anything like that. Hamsters like to pretty much be alone, I guess, living alone, because if they are living together, then they're going to feel territorial and, you know, yeah. So that's pretty much housing. The next thing that you kind of need to know is that you don't want to do a thin layer of bedding. You want to make it 2 to 3 inches of bedding so your hamster can dig and burrow and all that fun stuff that hamsters like to do. So you want to give them a lot of bedding. The next thing, yeah, you don't want to go and grab them like this. You want to put your hand under them and pick them up, because when you go down and grab them, it's kind of like a bird claw. They feel like they're being prey. So when you're grabbing them like this, they feel like it's a bird claw and they're about to be taken away. You know? Yeah. So you don't want to like go above from the cage and grab them like this. You want to kind of be careful and kind of go under them. Yeah, that makes any sense. That is the next thing. And I think the last thing that I can really come up with on just the top of my head is, oh gosh, I just lost it. Oh, yeah. So when you first get your hamster, you want to give them some space so then they can learn, or not learn, but they can get used to their surroundings and your smell and everything. You don't just want to start picking them up and playing with them as soon as you get them. That's not really good for them. I did get a really bad bite when I first got my new hamster, and that was because I tried to hold her when I first got her, and she was scared, so I don't like blame her or anything, but I do still have the mark on my finger. You're not fingy? Is that what I said? Finger. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. I don't think you can, but yeah, I bled everywhere and it hurt really bad, so just don't give them space when you first get them. Taming them and getting them used to you it's not going to be an easy process. It's not going to just take a week. It could take some weeks or a couple weeks, or it could take a month or a couple months. It really depends on your hamster and how much you're actually really trying to bond with them and everything, but you do need to learn when to give them some space. So you don't just want to try to hold them all the time. So now that you are hearing all of this stuff, do you still want a hamster if you're thinking of getting one? Because you can't just throw them in a little cage and they'll be fine. That's not alright. They do need big space, because when you think of a hamster, you might think of like a little kid. It's a little kid's pet. Hamsters aren't really meant for little kids. Little kids don't know how to like handle them right, and most parents, I'm just judging this from what I see on YouTube and movies and stuff, and obviously movies are always going to be like wrong, but I'm just kind of going by what I see on YouTube a lot. Parents think they can just get a little hamster critter trail cage and give it to their little kid and they'll be fine. but that's not the case. They do need a lot of space and time, and they're not cheap. So people think that they can just get a hamster and it'll cost like nothing. No, that's not it. Hamsters do cost a lot of money. So just think of that if you're planning on getting a hamster in the future, or if you're planning on getting one soon, or if you even have one right now and you're not doing something right. Just know that they do need more. So if you're doing something wrong, I do suggest fixing it. Everyone makes mistakes. I've made mistakes. I put my first hamster in a 10-gallon tank. No, that doesn't work. I use too small of wheels. Don't use hamster balls. Those aren't good either. I've done a lot of wrong things with my hamster, and so have a lot of big YouTubers like Hopping Hammy. She's made a video on things that she did wrong when she first got her hamster, and so did Erin's Animals. She's done things wrong when she first got her hamsters too. So even big YouTubers and hamster lovers and everything, they also make mistakes. They've made mistakes before. It's perfectly normal to make mistakes, but it's not okay if you don't fix those mistakes. If you just keep doing those over and over again and you just don't try to fix them. That's what's wrong. It's alright to make mistakes, but it's not if you don't try to fix it, if that makes any sense. So I hope you enjoyed this very chatty video, but informational video. If you did, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. That was a weird thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for 200 subscribers. And I guess I'll see you in the next one. And I hope you and your hamster, if you have one, are doing well. So thanks, guys. Bye.